Hey readers, welcome back to Bookmark This, where lit happens. My name is Jess, and the lit that is happening today is an in-depth book review of Katabasis. And this book has literally blown up and is probably the most popular and the most frustratingly overhyped book that I have read so far this year, or maybe ever. So I do have quite the rant to go on. So before that, I thought I would give you just a little bit of a disclaimer. If this is a book that you have loved, I would love to chit chat with you, but I want you to know that I'm happy for you that you love this book. This is just my opinion, and this book was not it. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump straight into my thoughts on this book and whether or not you should bookmark it or toss it. If you have something you want to rant about, whether it is in defense of this book or whether you feel like me, go ahead and start leaving those rants in the comments and tell me where you guys are from as well. Go ahead and grab your catitude and let's get started. So, Book Talk would have you believe that this book is the next great epic fantasy read. Spoiler alert, it's not. Okay, it's not. And YouTube will have you believe that you need to have like some kind of master's degree, be some kind of scholar, be a professor yourself to even be able to read the book and understand it. And again, no prep is necessary. That is simply not true. Okay, starting off hot, let's talk about the expectation versus reality. So, this book is categorized and labeled as a epic fantasy, dark academia. Um, I felt like I was going to be getting some morally gray characters. There was going to be some epic stakes. I thought the premise of this book really sounded very, very unique and neat. There's not all that many stories of descending to hell on an adventure. The one that I have read is Dante's Inferno. I know that there's a few others, but they are few and far between. So I felt like, wow, this is a really overall cool idea, and I'm really excited to see what R.F. Kuang does with this book. To be completely honest, I came for those vibes along with the fact that it just said R.F. Kuang on the book. I was like, yes, I'm picking that up. Especially when it started to blow up on TikTok and YouTube, I was like, oh, I'm adding that to the shopping spree right now. I need to go get it. This sounds so cool. People were describing it as needing to do prep work to potentially understand the book because it was going to be some kind of academic type text that we might need to call up a tutor for, and I thought that sounded like a good time. I absolutely love studying. I absolutely love learning. I love a challenge. I love a book that's going to make me think. Let's talk about hard topics. I was so excited for that, and what I got was a sloppy, contradictory mess that literally left me frustrated and exhausted. Next up, let's talk about the plot and the pacing. So, in this book, I felt like we hopped right into let's draw a pentagram for the journey to hell. We kind of figure out right away that we are teaming up with an arch nemesis, or a rival, I should say, which seems like a wonderful potential for rivals to lovers. And we are setting up this sort of forced proximity where these guys are going to have to journey to hell together to rescue their professor. And I thought that sounded like a grand opportunity to do some pretty big things. And I definitely was psyched for the scariness of the journey to hell, no less. So I was really disappointed when I felt like the plot was meandering and sort of lacking purpose and lingering and not moving forward at all. There was a lot of fake build up of tension with no payoff whatsoever. And this book compares itself to Dante's Inferno. And Dante was able to deliver non unforgettable levels of hell with chaos and gore and scariness, and visited a lot of real issues. Whereas Katabasis just felt like we were sort of aimlessly wandering around in the dark with no destination. So, diving further into the comparison between Dante and Katabasis, you have the structure. The structure for Dante's levels of hell was so developed. You just knew where you were at all times and where you were going. And it just felt very organized, whereas Katabasis felt very muddied and just when unclear. We take a hard look at our characters, Dante had a lot of growth, whereas it seems like our main character never learns from anything and has zero character development. And I'm used to not really liking characters at points, but this was absolutely unbelievable. Dante wrote a descent story 700 years ago, and it still holds up today. It's a great read. Go get it, read it. It's fabulous. Katabasis is brand new and completely missed the assignment. Okay, diving into the problematic content next. Let me be clear. This content has the potential to do some real good, but it also can do some harm when it is glorified. And I unfortunately felt like Katabasis glorified a lot of negative things, one of which was SA. There is some hints and then later on a confirmation of SA happening in this book, a lot of grooming happening in this book. Now, I will say we're talking about adults, we're talking about college age, but it does not matter. There is a power struggle happening with a professor and undergrads or graduate people in graduate programs, and the professor is definitely taking advantage and kind of trying to craft his own girls. It's like a lot going on in the story. And I felt like it was brought up, but it really wasn't discussed in a way that feels like it really pulled or pushed the conversation forward or, outright discussion about how terrible it is. There was a lot of actual glorifying this professor. Like, yes, he was terrible, but he was a genius. And, oh, he's a tyrant, but he's my tyrant. Like, you're talking about a professor who is grooming girls, encouraging them to starve themselves, wear their hair a certain way, dress a certain way. It is grotesque and disgusting. And if that was my kid in that college, I would be pitching a fit. And I don't think it's good to glorify it. I think if we brought it up, we could call it out for what it is and, you know, speak out against it. Definitely not glorifying it. Okay, and then of course we have misogyny, which is a little bit wild because our main character is a female and she is on board and laughing and making jokes about other women, and she is on board with the women are less than, and if they don't want to be less than, then don't be less than. That is literally her attitude until she, in fact, herself is a victim of misogyny, and then she wants to get upset. And it is largely unchecked in this book. I really thought for a second we were about to get some real context and really start having a real conversation about it when she is speaking with another character, and the lady is like, oh, so now you want to be a feminist, and they're having a conversation, and I thought that it was going to go forward, and I was getting really excited. Turns out it literally went nowhere. It largely remains unchecked. I mean, women are sidelined, objectified, punished, and there's really no real narrative awareness unless and until it happens to her, and then she is quite upset. Again, this doesn't feel dark and complex, it feels shallow and careless. Okay, I've touched on this a bunch already, but we have a very unlikable protagonist, which happens often in my reading, and I'm fine with someone that I disagree with. I'm fine with someone who is a little bit unlikable. I really love it though when they have a purpose and maybe even some character growth, which this girl has zero, and it is quite frustrating, especially with the fake outs. There is a lot of giving the reader the feeling of it teases growth, and it feels as though we are about to make some breakthroughs, and then it is reset back to the selfishness and back to the stubbornness, and it is just mind-blowing how many times it is repeated over and over. Okay, on to the writing and contradictions. I have my little notes right here, y'all, if y'all are wondering what I am looking at. um there was a lot of beautiful lines that were sort of buried into the chaos, like little hidden gems that you would find along the way. But instead of them standing out and being beautiful, for me, it just made them look so much more messy. Like the book itself, so much more messy in comparison to those beautiful one liners here and there. It feels very much like there's no consistency in this book except for when it's repetitive. Something that was contradictory that might be a little bit more on a larger scale was that she had moments of suicidal ideation, which is understood and understandable, but she would go from I realized that I do want to live. I found a reason to live. And then literally in a page, she would be like, I want to let this thing rip my throat out. And again, somebody who has complex mental issues may feel that way from time to time, but it was like this constantly throughout the book with no, awareness, no if the main character or the narrator didn't talk about, the wishy-washiness, they didn't point it out. It was almost as if the author forgot that she wrote it, and it would happen and then disappear. Had to flip back and forth to make sure I didn't misread something because I thought that I misread it because she just said the opposite of this. This didn't feel like unreliable narration. It felt sloppy and like bits and pieces were forgotten that they had already happened and they would happen again. Those rare, beautiful lines just continued to remind me what this book could have been. Like there's sparks of what it had the potential to be. What really made me laugh out loud about this book and the hype surrounding it is that there are entire videos made on the things that you need to read to prep for Katabasis. Like, get out of here. They made this book seem like it was some advanced philosophy textbook that you needed a degree to get through. There is some discussion of philosophical ideas and some name drops of philosophers, and there are beautiful lines from them, as well as some discussion of mathematics and some logic. Discussions woven within the story, and those are actually some of my favorite parts. And they made it seem like this book was a mini textbook. To be quite frank, my middle grade student could read this book and understand it perfectly well. I wouldn't let her because I don't like the way that they glorified so much of the things I've already discussed, but she could read it and understand it because everything in this book was explained. There was nothing in the book that you needed to research. Now, if you know about these philosophers and their messages that might give you like a little bit more of an understanding of where it's coming from. And certainly you can pause and Google or look up some information if you're inclined to do so, like if you just want to know, but it's 100% not necessary. Everything that you need to know was explained in the book. And those were not the confusing parts. The confusing parts is where the hell are we? Where the hell are we going? What was the purpose again? Did you even remember the purpose? Because throughout the book, we're supposed to be searching for our professor. We forgot that along the way because we didn't discuss it for like a long time. And then when it was time to wrap the book up, we conveniently remembered. And in like this much of the book left, it was like, oh, here he is. And they literally had the nerve to say she found him. No, you didn't. You cheaped out. Like everything felt so cheap and rushed at the end after miles and miles of words that meant nothing. We were going nowhere. We got nowhere. We didn't develop. We didn't truly discuss. And then it's just over and rushed at the end. Okay, to wrap up these thoughts in this extended rant, Katabasis wanted to be epic and it wanted to be mystic and it wanted to be profound. Instead, it was contradictory, careless, and shallow. It glorifies harm. It gave us a hypocritical protagonist with zero character development. And then it sprinkled in rare, beautiful moments that literally made the rest of the book just look worse by comparison. It is not so profound that you can't get it. I got it. It just wasn't good. At the end of the day, hype does not equal quality, and Katabasis proves that better than any other book that I've read so far this year. Now, I was extremely hard on Katabasis because it took me for a ride and I'm going to need 3 to 5 business days to recover. But I will say that I do have a respect for R.F. Kuang regardless of how this sounded. I enjoyed The Poppy War. I hope you'll check those books out. If this was your first book by this author, please give her another chance. And hopefully some of this stuff will be caught better in the future from editors' points of view. I'm not real sure what happened with the editing process, but nonetheless, R.F. Kuang is a fabulous writer. Just not
Alrighty,
sure
those
what
are
happened.
my
Thoughts. So, are we going to bookmark it or pause it? I think my point of view is pretty clear. This book's shelf life, 2 stars. It's a toss for me. Thanks for hanging out with me today for this book review turned rant. If you enjoy these type of videos, go ahead and hype up this video the way they hyped up that book. And let me know if you still plan to read it or have you tossed it off of your TBR altogether. If you do want to get it, I will have a link below in my description box. Don't forget to bookmark this channel and click the little notification bell so you never miss when lit happens, and I will see you in the next video.